check out the channels on the rest of our video. Oops. Approximately 80% of small businesses fail within the first 10 years. According to a study done by Salesforce, that's because they're chasing the wrong product and/or the wrong market. I started my own agency over 12 years ago, and I'm going to share with you the exact steps that I did to start my agency and how I've stayed in business that whole time. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Jenn, founder of Formula Done, the agency we're going to talk about. And I help small businesses find leads online, create content that actually attracts and converts, bringing that warm traffic directly to your offers. If any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the other videos on my channel. And for a deep dive, visit the Virtual Jenn and read up on our blog. All right, let's get going. When offering services as a B2B agency, you have to be an expert in exactly what your customers need. In today's world, that means digital marketing. I started my agency over 12 years ago. I'm going to share with you exactly the steps on how I started it, as well as how it's changed through the years as I grew and as the industry has changed. When I first started my agency, I created an LLC while I was still technically an employee. I worked my business part-time and never really did anything with it until I actually went full-time. That's when everything really mattered, right? So the very first thing that you need to do and understand is, what is your niche? Is it the exact types of services that you're offering? Who are you serving? You need to know exactly those things so that you can very clearly define what it is that you're going to offer, what you're going to do, and how you're going to help their businesses. So for me, at that point in time, I started as a graphic designer. I had been working in corporate for over 15 years, and I had an opportunity when another company came in and did a buyout that I could either leave of my own volition or apply for a job that I was not qualified for. So it was an opportunity to leave and start my own business.
Business idea. Start a business.
The way that I left is I decided I wanted to focus on design, but I also really had a digital marketing belt because over those 15 years, I had learned how to build websites, how to do videos, how to do product photography, how to rank on search engines, how to get seen on social media. I was there when all of those things were building. And so I kind of already had the chops and the experience that let me negotiate a long-term contract. So when I left, I had some contacts and I created myself a sort of transition job. Now, say it's the start of my agency, but what I really did was I said, okay, I am going to come and I am going to set up your entire marketing strategy. I will do all of the graphic design. I will do all of the negotiating. I'll do all the advertising, set up all your trade shows, blah, 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 blah.
There's only one man for this job.
I had a very clear contract. They paid me a flat monthly fee and actually set up an office in their office because they wanted me close, which was fine because I also negotiated that I set my own hours and terms. So I didn't have to invest in all of my equipment and software and things like that. They actually kind of got an in-house employee. Although I set my own hours, I kind of came and went as I pleased as long as I got my job done. What that allowed me to do was to start working on networking and starting to create that audience while I had a steady income. Now, the only reason that I was able to do that is because I came with 15 years of experience and I already knew what I was doing in that field. If you're just getting started, please, 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 please do not go start an agency claiming to be an expert for something that you just literally learned a month ago. You gotta have the chops and the skills to back it up. So I just mentioned that I had set my own hours and my own time, which meant that I got to go out and network. Well, at the point in time when I started my agency, I was mostly working with local businesses and I was doing a lot of very small business marketing. So that meant things like chamber meetings and local speaking opportunities and BNI meetings and all of those things that we kind of do when we're first getting started in our local area. It's a fantastic way to increase your network. And in fact, I still stay in touch with contacts that I've made during that time, here I am 12, 15 years later. It's a wonderful place to start. What that is doing, though, is defining your audience, which is the second thing that you need to do. You need to know who it is that you're going to serve and start building that audience, that network. For me, that was people that I knew locally that I did work for, and some of them I ended up doing work for free just because they had such a large network and they became great referral partners. That's how I started building my entire agency. Now, caveat, just so that you know, I ran my agency completely on referral business for about the first 10 years. So looking back on it now, I would recommend still having an online presence and working on building your list, because while I am making some shifts in my agency now, it's kind of like I'm starting over because I never developed my own list. So take that as building your audience, growing your list. Don't make the same mistakes that I made. Make sure that you have a website. And even if that's just a single page where people can find information about you, make sure that you are present on social media in some way. Join some relevant groups. Spend some time actually developing that network, both in person and online. Those connections are going to make the biggest difference for you when you have both a following and a referral base. All right, now let's talk about pricing. So pricing is one of those really, really edgy things. And honestly, as an employee, I myself did the exact same thing that I see most other agencies when you're first getting started completely fall into the same trap, which is charge an hourly rate. When you first start off, very, very beginning, just to get some experience and expertise, all those things, an hourly rate is not terrible, but that locks you into a super limited amount of time. So you do not want to leave your corporate job just to create another job for yourself where you're trading more time for money. It makes scaling as an agency really, really, really difficult. So one of the very first things that I did as an agency owner, because I had worked in corporate for 15 years, I had been with companies that literally circled the drain and went out of business while I was working for them, right? Not because of my marketing efforts, because of bad management. So anyway, I knew early on that if I ever started my own business, that I didn't want to pretend like I was smart enough to know how to run a business, that I wanted a coach. And so one of the very first things that I did was I hired a coach. And my coach quickly taught me that I did not want to be charging hourly rates. Instead, what I should be doing is charging package prices or flat rate fees. So I quickly evolved into developing packages of here's all the things that I'm going to do, or a custom developed package, or if there were a lot of things happening, a monthly retainer. And those pricing models allowed me the flexibility to still do the work because I knew that I could do it quicker than most other people would do hourly. I wasn't having to track hours and report that. I knew what my income was going to be. They knew what their budget was going to be. Made for the most easiest kind of transition. So the clients that kept coming back over and over, that's the ones that I moved on to a monthly retainer. So that leads me to a question that I always love to ask, which is if you are currently doing service work, and even if it's only you're a one-man agency, or if you have a whole bunch of team under you, how are you charging for your prices? Are you on an hourly model? Do you have a package model? Do you have several different packages or a flat retainer fee? Put in the comment below. I'd love to hear, and share a link to your own website because, hey, cross promotion, right? Share it down below. Love to see your comments. So my first couple years in business as an agency, I did really well. I started to realize that I had created myself, though, just a job, right? So my first year, I had that contract where I was working with people and working on developing my local network. Then I started to bring on more clients. And as I brought on new clients, I kept charging them more and more for my packages to where pretty soon my extra client load was actually making me more than my initial negotiated retainer. So I started to cut that initial retainer back. It allowed me to service more clients, but I started to realize that with more customers and more packages, I was getting a new set of problems. Number one was that I suck with numbers, and I knew that I needed somebody to help with my banking and keep my books going, and to help with filing taxes, to make sure I was taking enough out for taxes and all those things. So my very, very first hire for help was to hire a bookkeeper. Then I did some studying on how I wanted to handle my taxes and handle my savings and how to be able to handle all of that so that I had money for scaling as an agency. The other thing that I started to realize was as I was talking to each individual client, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll have that done for you by Tuesday. Oh yeah, we'll get this done. I'll have it done next week. I really needed to pay much more attention to project management. So I started to implement a project management system that I could use to make sure that I had details for every project and when it needed to be done, and that I could easily create dashboards and share that information with my customers so that they knew what to expect. The other big problem that I ran into is as I was growing and scaling and I was still networking and I was still the one creating content and doing the marketing and all of the work. And pretty soon I ran out of time. And I knew that in order to continue scaling, I needed to add to my team. But in order to add to my team, I needed to have an higher income, which meant that I wanted to increase my expertise level so that I was becoming an elite level so that I had the extra income to be able to hire a team and work on my scaling. And that's where I realized in order to increase my level of expertise, I was looking for a certification. Now, if you want my deep dive on any kind of digital marketing certification, look at our previous episode and where I do a little deep dive there on getting a certification. My very first certification was to become an Infusionsoft certified partner. I had a customer that introduced me to the CRM and said, hey, can you just send out my newsletter in this and do this stuff? And so I dove in and I went, this is really cool. I can actually track directly the return on the investment from this email because I can track the links that are coming back because I can track the sales that are coming from that. And I just thought it was really awesome and took me that next level. It was one of my very first shifts from just doing graphic design, local networking, local marketing, trade show, package design, all those kinds of things, to starting to get more into the digital space in the online world with custom CRM development. And so as a certified partner, what that did is it opened me up to an entire community and a whole other arena of potential customers. And all of a sudden, out of all these digital agencies out there, there were only a select few that were certified partners, and I was one of them. So I was able to use that to market our services differently and start charging a premium. That's where things really turned around for me. And for a few years, I ran as Idaho's only Infusionsoft certified agency, which was completely true. I ended up bringing on new team members and even ended up paying to get my team certified as well with Infusionsoft. And that made we knew that we were all going to work the same way. We all had the certification badge. And that's how we rolled for quite a long time. Now, I also started to add on additional certifications because I'm like, well, if one gets me this, then I can also do these things, right? So I added on Membarium certification, and then I added on like Social Fuse certification and all these other things that I started to add on, mostly because I had customers say, hey, can you also do this for me? Hey, can you also do this for me? And one of the other big things that I learned during that time, the hard way, is setting expectations. When you start dealing with having a lot of people who are certified in the same way, there's different expectations. Maybe this customer came and had previously worked with somebody else who worked in a different way than we did. So it became clear that on our sales call and in our contract and in our onboarding calls, mostly everything we were doing was about setting expectations. Here's how we work. Here's everything we're going to do. Here's our expected turnaround time. If you make last minute changes, here's the fees that are going to apply. I had to start building a very in-depth contract and agreement, and also take a policy that if something went not according to plan, to immediately be the first one to, at least this is the way we operate, to turn around the customer and say, you know what, this was our expectation. I fell down. I did not do this. Somebody on my team did not do this. Whatever the case may be, we did not perform as expected. And here's what I'm going to do to fix it for you right now. And here's what I'm going to do to stop that problem happening in the future. The only way that we were able to continue and grow is because I had consistent referrals coming back from our customers. This is why I never built a list, because I still had happy customers, even for the ones that ended up leaving because they outgrew us or leaving because the project was done. But setting those expectations and then living up to them right from the start makes the biggest difference. And honestly, the more you can put in writing, in those contracts, in those agreements, get people to sign them, please, please, please do that. I have literally had many different deals fall apart because I didn't have the right information in my contracts. And over the years, I've probably lost over $200,000 in income just because I didn't have a lawyer look at my contract, because I didn't have the right wording. So it becomes so important as you're negotiating bigger deals, even small deals, to make sure that all that information is in your contracts. So important. Please do not make those mistakes that I made. But really, it's so much about setting those expectations, and even daily and weekly, here's reports of where we're at. Here's the project management system. Here's how your stuff is performing. All of those things where you're just setting the expectations and then exceed them a little bit will take you so far as an agency. Okay, and also the biggest problem that happens, scope creep. Especially when you're on a flat monthly retainer or a project base. Oh, well, can you also just do this? Oh, can you also just do this? Customers will ask and they will push. They're like toddlers. They will just continue to push and push and push. And, a lot of times you'll be like the nice guy, yeah, I'll just do that for you. I'll just do that for you. And then it becomes expected, right? So handling scope creep, making sure that you're saying up front, here's everything I'm going to do for you. If you do extra stuff, awesome. Just let them know. Hey, this wasn't included in our scope, but I gave it to you. It's worth this. Here you go. Just have that. Then they're going to feel extra special. But if they ask for something and you're like, I'm sorry, that's not in our agreement. Either I can't do it or I can for an additional fee. All of those things need to be handled, and it becomes so much easier when it's all in your agreements to begin with. So definitely handle your contracts and your scope creep that way. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that when I was growing and building and I started taking on the certifications and doing more things, that kind of started my unraveling or my derailment. This is for us because I had said right up front, I'm a niche agency. I'm going to do these things for these people. I will build Infusionsoft systems and I will build Membarium websites. Well, then pretty soon we started adding on custom built WordPress sites that weren't membership sites. We started adding on ClickFunnels websites. We started doing all these different kinds of social media. We started managing launches and all these things that we could do. But again, it comes back to, if you refer back to episode number 1 of the Content Toolbox, I talk about there that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that is a lesson that I did not learn early on. And I spent several years where we were constantly like, oh yeah, we'll do that because I can just learn that and do it, right? So we were constantly learning new things and doing new things, which was great for our customers because we could learn and deliver an amazing program. But where we went wrong is that in developing those systems and processes that make it easy for us to say, okay, when a new customer comes on board, here's what we do. And here's the steps that we do to walk them through. I got away from that because it was like, yeah, oh yeah, we can do that. Oh yeah, we can do that. For every single customer, it was a completely different process. And what that ends up doing is it makes it impossible to scale. And it makes you completely burn out because all you're doing is shifting and adjusting and shifting and adjusting. That's ultimately where I got in my agency after 10 years. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. And what had happened, really, the downfall was when I decided to be like, oh yeah, we'll take on this certification and this one and this one. You really have to be able to stick to the thing that you're good at and something that you can continually rinse and repeat. It's the same process you're going to do over and over and over. Only then can you scale effectively as an agency. Otherwise, you will get caught in a trap and you'll hit a glass ceiling and you will never be able to scale past that. And that's not where you want to be. At first, it seems amazing. And then you'll just keep running into that glass ceiling over and over and over. And you're right back where you started when you first started the agency trying to get out of corporate. At least that was my story. So when you're first starting out, I'm going to recover the steps here. Define your niche. Make sure you know exactly what it is that you want to do and who you're going to serve, how you're going to do it. Make sure that you have the experience, the knowledge, and you actually can show, here's what I've done. Define your audience, build a following, grow that network, have an online presence with your website and your social media, develop your pricing packages, pay attention to your billing, your books, your taxes, outsource that stuff if you're not good at it, which probably 95% of us entrepreneurs are not, right? Pay attention to how you are going to scale. In order to scale, you have to have those repeatable systems and processes, things that you can train and teach people to do over and over with your internal team, really great project management, and customers that will find you because you are offering a service that they cannot find in very many places. Which leads me to certification. Having a certification badge, that badge of expertise, but keep it select, right? We are an agency that offers this. There are only hundreds of agencies in the world that do this. Here's how we work. That will grow you and scale you. Promotion and community. Make sure that, especially with your certification, you are going to get leads and customers from that your customers will continue to refer you, and that you are plugged into a community of other entrepreneurs who own agencies who are doing very similar work to you. Setting expectations. Having the right contracts, having the right onboarding, having the right kind of communications with your customers. They know what your office hours are. They know how to get a hold of you. Everything is completely outlined, so there's no surprises. And sticking to your plan. Sticking to all of that outline with the understanding that as the market changes and as the years pass and as your agency scales, those same practices are going to apply, but the things you're doing and the people you're working with, that may start to adjust as you need to as the industry grows. And that, my friend, is all of our steps. So pay attention to those things. You can get started with an agency. You can continue to grow and scale. And even if you start with a team of one, I started with Kane and Associates. My associates at the time were my cats, who are still with me, as you saw. But I now have a full team of people who help me because I have set up specific niche. I have a very unique proprietary certification that we do. And I'm able to train my people. We do the same thing over and over and over. We've set the expectations with our customers up front. They know exactly what they're going to get. And it makes everybody's lives so much easier and happier. I know you can do it, totally. If you like this video, please make sure you like it. Add a comment. Tell us what you're doing. Share your website. And go check out the rest of the videos in our channel. If you want any deep dives, visit our blog where we have even more information, plus infographic tip downloads. You can get a copy of the tips that we just went through right here at thevirtualjen.com. And before you leave, make sure that you hit subscribe on our channel and hit that bell notification so that you make sure you get notified when we come out with new videos. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Jenn, and I will see you on the next episode.